And a hurricane warning remains in effect for areas out to our west. That is on the west coast. So again, want to emphasize that is where the worst of the winds and the storm surge will be. Nonetheless, there are plenty of watches and warnings in effect for our area. Check it out. All of us are under a flood watch because of the heavy rains that are going to fall. Tropical storm warnings are in effect from the Gulf Coast all the way to inland areas of Duval. And then through Nassau, tropical storm warnings in effect also for those of you on the Georgia coastline. And that's why we're saying in some form or fashion, all of us here on the First Coast will be included in at least some of the ingredients of this tropical storm that we do think will soon become a hurricane. But there's a variety, and that's why we're going to break it down for you county by county. But first of all, if you've been around at all, you know that some of our biggest concerns, even with the Category 1 hurricane, let's say it becomes that, some of our biggest concerns is as long as everyone knows there's a Cat 1 out there, the biggest concern is that what if it rapidly intensifies to more? With this particular cyclone, we don't see that happening because we do think it's going to have shear. Remember, a hurricane wants to build that chimney, and so it needs very little wind, if at all, on top. It's getting all of its energy at the bottom. But if there's shear, then instead that chimney, if it's there at all, is leaned over. I've heard some call it looks like the Tower of Pisa. Well, the Tower of Pisa is what we have over the eastern Gulf of Mexico, meaning it's sheared. See if you can see it with me. So this is just the sun shining on the clouds. The bright white are the big thunderstorms. Remember, it's trying to build big thunderstorms all the way around it. That's what's called the eye wall. Do you see these lines here? Those are gusty winds, circulating winds, but notice there isn't any bright white there. That's because the chimney is being tilted off to the northeast. We call that southwesterly shear. In other words, yes, the computer models were forecasting that, but to see that on satellite, to also hear that from the recon, it's verification. And that's why certainly with humility, we're going to watch this closely to see if it doesn't, in fact, intensify more. Just want to let you know the science behind why. There's pretty good confidence, yes, it will be a hurricane, but that it will come ashore as a Category 1. And then I hesitate to use the term weaken. It will not be as powerful as it makes it to Live Oak and Lake City and then through the Waycross area. But remember, as we showed you on satellite, although this is a small cyclone, it's just not going to be where that line is. And very often you hear the term off to the right is the stormier side, the dirtier side, whatever word you want. And certainly all of us in northeast Florida and southeastern Georgia are off to the right. Here's another way to look at it. Just going to show you the tropical storm force winds. And the earliest arrival of the tropical storm force winds at 7:30 tomorrow morning, and that's for those of you out toward the Swanee, and then making it through the rest of northeast Florida and southeastern Georgia, and then out of here after sunset on Wednesday. So that's a visual. There's the tornado watch. We do expect to be put under tornado watches tomorrow. In fact, if you join us during Good Morning Jacksonville, we'll probably be under a tornado watch then. What about now? We have some rapidly moving showers and thunderstorms. We don't see any indications of severe weather. They'll continue to go from the southeast to the northwest. Where is this going to go? Again, tremendous agreement to the northeast, a little bit more to the right if the warm front moves a little slower, a little more to the left, that is farther inland, if the warm front moves a little faster. Okay, do we have time to talk about it county by county? I'm asking questions to my boss. We do. Thank you so much. Okay, so here we go. We've already covered the counties out toward the Swanee and the Okefenokee, but I wanted to cover the rest of our area. So for those of you in Duval, our windiest and wettest will be 8 in the morning to 8 p.m. on Wednesday. And these are the pretty similar numbers we've been talking about now for the last several days. A little bit early. Remember, it's coming at us from the south for those of you in St. John's and Flagler. But another way to look at it is by 7 p.m. Wednesday, you'll see conditions improving dramatically. A little bit earlier because you're southwest, those of you in Clay and Putnam County. We're watching every county for you, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. about the windiest and the wettest. Remember, for those of you, and we're going to include Nassau County, but really the 1 to 2 foot storm surge, Camden and GLYNN, that's not a big surge, but that will slow the ability of drainage systems, especially for those of you in coastal Brunswick. And then, of course, at the ocean, I think a lot of you want to look at the tides, but again, we don't see storm surge being a big deal. Certainly not a good idea to be out there over the water. This is going to continue to fly on by, and thus I'm going to make a forecast that the jumbo shrimp will be playing ball on Thursday.